A great track that is, from 96, unmistakable. Lucky from my guest this evening, Mr. Lewis Taylor. Welcome, Lewis.
Hello. It does go on a bit, that one, doesn't it?
You reckon?
Blimey, when are you going to stop? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's one of Marvin Gaye's old records, isn't it? Don't start that again. Right, I know. Lewis, this is your second visit to Soul 24/7.
Yeah.
So we're feeling very lucky ourselves this evening. Now, since that album, of course, there's been a long gap, and then there's the new album, which has come out to rave reviews everywhere. We've just been discussing that. But it does seem that there's similar things happening this time to last time, that the soul guys who got into part of your music are finding that the other bit is beyond them again.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can understand that. I mean, it's not. There's all sorts of strange things going on in there at the same time. You know, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I expect that to happen.
Yeah,
I expect that to happen.
But you're surprised. I think you were just saying off air that you're surprised that you got so much good press.
That was a surprise, yeah, because I mean, in real time, it was actually 2 years that I was away, because I promoted the first album for a year,
right,
and this new album was actually ready a year ago, but it was held up through internal record company things and stuff. So it's actually only been 2 years, but yeah, I've forgotten the original question now.
Oh, so have I. No, they're good. They're good press that you got you surprised by.
Yeah, no, yes, that's true. Yeah, because I think with this album, I just rather than spending a really heavy, concentrated amount of time working on it, I just put it together. You know, I held back a little bit, I suppose. I put a little bit, kind of lived my life a little bit and spent some time. Do a track here and then relax and do something else, and then maybe a week later do another track, and then at the end of it, it's like, oh god, we got an album, you know. So it's
that easy, is it?
It wasn't easy, but I didn't want to really like stress myself out doing it, which I did with the first album. You know, I put a lot of like emotional and mental energy into doing it. And I didn't want to do that this time. I think I put too much into that first album. And
we discussed this recently when I interviewed you for Echoes, and it seemed what you were saying is that you put a lot into it, and then also the reaction you got from the press and everybody else that outside yourself took you back, didn't it? It set you back a bit. You thought, God, what's going on here?
It's partly that. I think, to be honest with you, a large part of it was as I put so much work in, and various parties who shall go nameless were not putting enough work back into it for me to get anything out of it. Right. Not enough was happening with it due to lots of different things that were going on. And at the time, the situation... At the time of starting to work on the new album, the situation at the label, the new regime of Ireland, was a bit precarious as well. So I thought, well, once you put a lot of work into a record and you get out there, you're quite vulnerable and susceptible to kind of like whatever happens, and anything that bad happens, you take it personally if you've put so much into it. You know, This time I just didn't want to get as hurt this time round. You know, but at the end of the day, I've listened. I listened to it the other night for the first time, all the way through, and I think it's just as heavy as the first album, you know, which is quite a surprise, because it didn't feel like I made it in that way, you know. Right. But so yeah, I was quite surprised. I was expecting people to sort of maybe start saying that I was treading water a little bit and doing the same sort of thing, because I didn't make any conscious effort to follow up album number one. So I was sort of like, oh, here's a song. Oh, this is a nice song. And at the end of it, I thought, I've got a nice, cool bunch of tunes here. It's not like a big statement of intent like the first album was. And I was expecting critics to be sort of like quite harsh about that sort of thing. Well, it's all the same thing, you know. He did it before. It's nothing new, and maybe, you know. But no, I was very surprised. Very surprised to have those sort of reactions.
Yeah. Was it kind of that you thought, well, because because you felt that way about it, that you expected other people to spot that?
It was not so much that, because I like the album. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I like it more now. It's become more of an album. You can see it in front of you with the artwork and the whole. There is a sort of like a binding thing around the whole album. But no, at the end of it, I thought this is a good album. This is a nice album, you know. But I was maybe expecting people to pick up on the fact that maybe I haven't like totally pushed myself as hard as I did with the first album. I was expecting people to sort of like maybe spot that, or to sort of say, well, he's clearly just sort of, you know, kicking back, and you know, but they haven't.
That means we're all idiots.
That means you're all. You know nothing of my work, you fools.
No, we've had a question from Max out in California. I I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but he says, what limitations do you have within your music, and what limitations would you like to break out of? Because he thinks your music is pure and honest, and he loves it. So limitations.
I think the only limitations I have, and the only way I could answer that was by being very, very specific. And I think the only limitations is that I can't do anything that's really raucous. I think it needs to have a lot of space. I couldn't see myself doing something that's like a lot of shouting, a lot of, big sort of music. It always has to be fairly sort of small and get you in a rather more insidious way. Insidious? Or insidious, what's the word? Insidious, yeah. But that's not really much of a limitation, really. Within that, there's thousands of things that I feel I could do.
Right.
So I don't really feel any.
Well, you're just at the beginning of what we hope is going to be a long career. So.
Yeah. I suppose I couldn't do a thrash reggae album and get away with it or anything like that.
I wouldn't put it past you. Now, the track I'm going to play is My Aching Heart from the new album. How did that come to you?
How they all come to me. Just mucking around, trying to find some musical ideas, and the musical part of it is the most important to me. In order to get a song together, I have to have a little kernel of musical idea that inspires me, and I can sort of spend a lot of time trying to find one. When I find one, this is good, and I'll start working on it and develop it into a song. So it just came like all the others did.
Let's hear it. You are listening to Soul 24/7, and that was Lewis Taylor, my guest this evening. My Aching Heart from his brand new album, Lewis 2. Now, Lewis, we're getting plenty of emails in asking you questions. I knew this would happen. And lots from New York City, and we've got a couple here. Let me just get the names of the people. What have we got now? We have got... Who's in this one? Oh, there's no name at the bottom. Oh, well, there's one guy in New York and another guy called Simon. Simon wants to know when you're coming to New York, and the first guy who didn't put his name on, or her name, is demanding the same thing. When are you going to go and tour in the States? Any plans?
There's no plans yet, but it really depends on how the record company view everything, because they have to fund it. And I think usually the plan is to try and get something happen over here first before anything happens in America. And obviously you have to get the American and the English company talking to each other as well, and it's a whole different ball game. So
it's in their hands then, basically.
Once there's the demand to go over there, and once the record company are up for it and paying for the whole thing, then we'll go out there and we'll do it. But it's all down to that, really. I think they usually you have to concentrate on England first, particularly if you're not particularly established. So when there are plans, we'll be over there like a shot.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, since we got promo copies of the album, and I had it on this show straight away as the album of the week, and we got emails from that asking that question, and nearly every week that goes by, we get emails asking, if I play a Lewis Taylor track, when's it coming out in America, where can I buy it, as we do with, quite a few other UK bands, but particularly you, it's a recurring theme, so it's going to happen, I think.
No, it will happen. But again, it's it's whether it's logistically doing the whole thing and the money, and that someone's got to fund it, but someone's got to have enough faith in it to fund it. And as I said before, the English part of the company has to talk to the American part and sort of, are we into this? And yeah, that's great. Let's do it. So it's just down to them, really.
The Shea Stadium gigs are a while away at the
moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be some bar in Texas.
Now, the Marvin Gaye subject. Everybody talks about Marvin Gaye when they're writing their
Chestnut
records. Yes, that one. Now, we're going to play a Marvin track from Here, My Dear. Now, you don't try and sound like him. You're just in the same register. Isn't that not the case?
That is the case now. I think I was making more of a conscious effort to paraphrase some of what he does on the first album, definitely, because I was listening to both Here, My Dear and Trouble Man when I made that first album a lot. Whereas I think the singer I was listening to most when I was listening to doing the new album was Billie Holiday. So it's kind of, I'm singing more like myself now than I did on the first album. So there's less Marvin in it, but we do sing in the same sort of register, But it's not. I don't think I sound as much like him.
When you're at home and you're playing Marvin Gaye records, do you just sort of sing along, sort of, harmonising with him in the bath and showing off then?
Yeah. I don't do that much. I don't listen to him that much now.
No?
I think the one I tend to do that with, and the one that I've always done that with, even more than Marvin Gaye, is Sam Cooke. That's the one I tend to sort of... He's more not necessarily stylistically, but just as far as being a singer is concerned, he's more sort of my mentor, really. My biggest influence is definitely Sam Cooke, although you can't hear it.
Right.
But
God, the emails are flooding in now. Just looking at the. When I first met you, you had a studio on the top of a house. Where's your studio now?
It's still at home, but I don't. I live somewhere else now.
Right.
A new place, but I still record at home.
So you got neighbours banging on the wall then? Or?
No, got a nice little old lady who lives next door to me, who's
dead.
Who's dead?
Oh, right.
No, she's very understanding, and I tend to just keep work during the day. So it's she's all right. She's good old Joni, nice lady. No, so I don't have any problems at all.
Right. So she doesn't mind this guy who sounds like Marvin singing in the shower then?
No, she doesn't mind that.
Good old Joni.
So, yeah, good old Joni.
Let's hear some Marvin. Marvin.
Just goes absolutely nowhere, that tune. It makes no sense whatsoever. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's
Excellent.
great.
Yeah.
Interesting album as well. It's got some really mega highs and then a couple of real turkeys on it, I think, as well.
There is a couple on there, yeah.
That was a funky space reincarnation.
Yeah, but
does it for me.
I like it, even though it's a bit naff.
Yeah. Now we're getting emails flooding in. Now, a guitar question. Where did you learn to play the guitar? What age did you start? And are you self-taught? That's from Simon again in New York.
Yes to all 4.
3.
Yes to all 3.
Right. Okay.
No, I actually started off playing piano when I was about 4, and I had a road accident when I was about 8 years old, and my parents bought me a little guitar, and I taught myself to play it in hospital, and it just went on from there. So I've been playing a long time.
And there is another question actually at the end about what instruments do you play? Well, just about everything, don't you? Is the answer?
Yeah, I don't play drums. I mean, I can play them, but I'm not that good at it. But it's just all programmed drums on the album anyway, apart from 2 or 3 songs. But all the rest, bass, guitar, keyboards, I just do it all myself.
Another one from Decay, I think it is, somewhere in the States. Do you consider yourself a soul singer?
Depends what they mean. I consider my singing to be soulful. I don't consider myself to be a soul singer, as in... Depends what kind of context they're talking. I mean, I consider Bob Dylan to be a soul singer too, because I think his vocals were very, very soulful too. I have just a wider view of what soulful means.
Right.
So I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. From the same guy, what do you think of the Stevie Wonder song "All I Do"? All I Do, is that the one from? It's from
the Master Blaster album.
Yeah,
Hotter Than July.
Yeah.
It's alright. It's a nice little tune. He writes a nice. He's got a good way with a song, old Stevie.
Yeah,
it's a nice little song.
I missed Simon.
It's a strange question. Actually.
Yeah, well, it obviously means something to the guy who sent it in. Obviously, he's going to be able to tell something about your answer.
My answer, yeah.
So what instruments do you want to learn? That's another question.
Oh, I'd love to learn alto sax. I'd love to be able to play alto sax. I adore Charlie Parker and Cannonball, those 2 guys. And Johnny Hodges I really like as well. That would be the one thing that I'm too old to learn now. I couldn't be bothered now. But yeah, an alto sax would be really, really great. So if I could do it. We got
an email here from somebody who wants you to hang out with them when you get to New York.
All right.
I don't know whether it's a man or a woman, so I don't know whether you'd want to yet.
Well, I think the gender may depend on my answer. My answer may depend on the gender. No, well, I'm really joking. I'm joking. I won't go there.
Right. What's this? Jonathan has sent this one, and it's the tagline is "I Hate You" by Prince. Right. So, Lewis, have you ever sung late at night on the band's green platform?
No, on the Bounds Green platform.
Yeah, it has beautiful reverb, it says here.
I'll have to try that one, that particular one. Is it that particular station or all of them?
Probably just Bounds Green.
I'll try it.
There's another question of the same guy. Does Trip So Heavy have a sample from "I Hate You" by Prince?
No.
No, it doesn't.
No, what they may be hearing is, if they're referring to the percussion, it's just a standard sort of tabla sound. If they're referring to the strange voices, that's just me mumbling through an FX machine all the way through it.
Right.
So no, there's nothing from Prince.
From Timothy Mundy in Atlanta, who's a musician himself, and he loves your stuff. He's written a few lines here. I'll read what he says. Lewis, you're one of the deepest cats I've heard in a long time. Lyrically, you write with such realness. Your songs sound like letters to lovers, past and present. But where I feel you most is musically. You play like a funk band. Your tracks contain so many grooves in a day, when most tracks are one groove, and the breaks is just muting a few tracks. Hearing your music is refreshing. I thought this kind of music died with the band way of making music. You push me I can't even read. You push to put more into my own music and make me less lazy.
Excellent. I mean, it's responses like that make making records worthwhile for me. Definitely. I love that sort of feedback.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's hear another track from the album. We're going to start with Party.
Oh, Party.
You're listening to the Echoes Magazine Review Show on Soul 24/7. My name is Chris Wells, and my guest this evening is Lewis Taylor.
Hello.
And when I first played that tune to Kwame from The Influence, he just sat there speechless at the end of it and said, "You know, man, we're talking genius business here."
Oh, that's so nice.
He likes you.
Oh.
Now, we got some more emails in.
Okay.
Decay, actually, who was emailing before, who is it turns out to be a man.
Right.
He was emailed in the middle of that tune and said, "This may be the most beautiful song I have ever heard.
Oh.
What made you write this, and can I send the lyrics to my girl?"
Yeah, you can. Yeah, of course. What made me write? Again, I mean, the point that I've made before is that lyrically, I really don't sort of spend a lot of time on lyrics. I don't give myself a hard time. I only give myself a hard time musically. So as far as lyrics are concerned, if there's anything in particular on my mind that's happening to me at one particular point, I just base whatever lyrics I'm writing on it. But I do it very, very quickly, because if I spend too much time on it, it'll come out very, very wordy, you know. So I like it to come out like I was talking to you, except for the fact that I don't say baby all the time.
Right.
So it hasn't really come from anywhere, that song in particular. I'm just trying to think. Shut up for a minute, don't you want to party with me? I don't know. I think it's come from a very similar place to Lucky, you know, in which I suppose a situation where there's a guy, you know, wants to, you know, get it on, and maybe his partner doesn't, and he's saying, "Come on, you know, Christ's sake," you know, which is what you're actually thinking inside. Obviously, you know, you don't want to come across like that, but I think with a lot of men, when they're put into that situation and they've really got that whole thing, the hormones are going around their body, you know, and they want that something to happen, and the other person doesn't, you know. And in front they're going, "Oh, okay, I understand, okay, fair enough," you know. But inside they're thinking, "Come on, bloody hell, what do I come here for?" You know. So I think it's probably, you know, maybe opening up to the fact that we do think that,
Right.
but we pretend that we don't, to be nice.
Another question coming in from the States again. Where can they get hold of your vinyl? Now, have you had any of your stuff on vinyl, actually?
I think the first album was put out on vinyl,
Right.
and I think that's it. I don't think there's vinyl with this new one.
So it's going to be the import shops, isn't it?
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Is there a website that can get any guidance on where to get stuff from?
I don't know.
No.
know.
Neither do I.
I don't have a computer at home, so.
But I would imagine, though, at places like Virgin in New York and Tower Records all across the States, you'll be able to get your album on import, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I
So that's the place to
I
go,
think
I
you
guess.
can. I mean, you can actually buy it straight from Ireland's webpage
Yeah?
as well. Yeah, I think you can actually just buy it. Just click into the Ireland UK and you can buy it there.
Right. Well, if there's any vinyl available, they'll know about it.
Yeah.
I think so. Got a hobbies question, actually.
Hobbies.
Yeah, so what kind of books do you like? Movies? Do you water ski, it says here, with half hour after.
I swim. I don't water ski. I read a lot of. Recently I've been reading a lot of music biogs, and they're really, really easy to read and quite absorbing. You know, the one I'm reading at the moment is Stoned by Andrew Loog Oldham.
Oh, right, yes.
Which is a really good book. And before that, I read Dear Boy, the Keith Moon biography.
Right.
Really great big thing. That's a fantastic book. Very, very sad.
Yeah.
Very, very sad book. And movies I like, the older they are, the better.
Right.
Now Voyager and films like that.
Right. There's a new book coming out by Al Green, Take Me to the River, which is Al Green's story as dictated into a tape recorder, it reads like, anyway, and then knocked into shape by a guy called Davin Say. So you get to find out one or two things about his musical background, and also he gives the version of the hot grits on the back incident.
Oh, right. His side of the story.
Yeah, where unfortunately somebody ended up shooting themselves.
Oh.
As a book, actually, it's not that good.
Interesting.
Well, I think because obviously he's a reverend and a great Christian and a believer, he tends to instead of analysing why he did a certain thing, he tends to say, well, who's to question the mysterious workings of God a lot? And, well, I was hoping for a bit more analysis than that. And maybe a biographer would have done that by asking a few other people about it.
Not a subject I'd be that interested in myself, although I like his voice, but I wouldn't have thought it'd have been that interesting to read about him, really. Not for me, anyway.
Oh.
Not a downer on the man at all.
Now, Sade. I'm going to play the new Sade single, which I know a lot of American people are going to love.
Sade.
Yeah, Sade, as in Slade, isn't it? Yes, right. One of the American listeners to this program are often writing in asking about you. They ask about Omar, and they also ask about Sade the whole time. So you're one of the three heroes of America, along with Sade and Omar. So let's see what you think of this. That's Sade's brand new single, By Your Side. And the album is coming in about 6 weeks, though I think I'm going to have a promo copy of it in time for next week's program, according to Epic, which I'm looking forward to. Now, Lewis.
Which I'm looking forward to.
What do you think about that?
It's okay. I mean, it's not really my kind of thing. I mean, I kind of like things a bit more. I like to be challenged a little bit more. I mean, her voice has got a certain amount of charm, but I think with a voice that has that kind of delivery, that kind of, it's like a very, not flat. I wouldn't say. I'm trying to think of a nicer word than flat. Like a delivery it's a very kind of like calm, sort of straight sort of delivery. For me, with I've often when I've done like little production jobs every now and then, I've worked with girls who've got those sort of voices, and it's a very, as I say, a very sort of flat delivery. But there's something to be said for that way of singing, you know. But for me, I would have liked to hear that in a far more interesting, slightly more unnerving context. You know, you can get more tension from just singing dead straight, no vibrato. You know, just a dead straight way of singing. You can actually create a bit of tension with it. And I think that I would have liked to have heard her voice in a far more interesting setting, and I think it would offset it far more, because she's got a nice tone, and she always has had a nice tone, you know.
Yeah.
But I've always found the whole setting it just didn't kind of it just wasn't interesting enough for me, just personally for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I know a lot of people really like her. So.
Yeah, well, I'm one of them. But I know it's one. Sade, like Omar, actually, I think they're both artists that if you're into them, you love most of what they do. If you're not, you'll never be a convert, because they never go anywhere else. You know, I mean, they do within their sphere. They do bring in new things. But it's like Al Green, I guess, for that period in the 70s. He worked within the Willie Mitchell. Millie Mitchell. Yeah, he worked within the Millie Mitchell groove, and didn't go outside it. And a lot of people then said he sounded the same. But I loved it because I wanted to have 5 or 6 albums like that, and then for him to move on.
It was a very satisfying sound. Yeah.
So anyway, as I say, the album may be here next week, in which case we'll play a lot of it, and I have heard it up at Epic, and it's as good as everybody hoped for if you're a Sade fan. Now, some more questions. One here, again from Simon in New York. Collaborations, your dream collaboration today, if you were around in the 60s or 70s, who would you want to have worked with, and what about the future in terms of collaborations?
Dream collaboration today, difficult one. It would be a gas. It would. I mean, it's reciprocated very much, and I've had the same thing said about me from this particular guy. It would be a gas to see what me and D'Angelo came up with together. If we ever got the chance to get together, that would be very, very interesting. Because there's a definite. Even though he comes very much from the hip hop side of things, and I come very much from the rock side of things, I think there's definitely a connection. There's definitely sort of an appreciation of like traditional values and applying them and trying to move forward using that, so I think that would be really, really good. 60s and 70s, no hesitation, Jimi Hendrix. And as far as anything happening, there's a few bits and pieces in the pipeline, but I can't really sort of like talk about them.
Right.
Apart from the fact that I'm working with this Finley Quay guy, who's that's a right old laugh doing that. There's a possible collaboration with a woman called Tina Arena, who we're quite good friends, so we might do something together. I might write something for an album of hers.
Did she just sing the song at the Olympics or something?
She did, yeah. And she's been doing West End show before that. She was in The Hunchback of Notre Dame as well. But the thing about her is that we got together and we did a little gig. She asked people to like to play guitar for her, and we just did this little gig, in London somewhere. It wasn't a very well publicised one. But we're in the rehearsals, and she can sing her ass off when she wants to. I mean, she's got something else going on, and I know she does a lot of that kind of like that Celine Dion type of thing. But once she gets past that, she can seriously get down. I'm telling you, she's a seriously good singer, and she's a great girl as well. A really, really nice person. So we might do something together. Anything else? I don't think so at the moment. Hope that answers your question.
It does, yes, I think it does. Somebody asked, actually, I must answer this one from Brian Holder, I think it is. He was just asking what the song we played. Well, he gave us the time, so I guess it must have been Party.
Yeah, it would have been Party.
Yeah, which is from Lewis Taylor's second album, Lewis 2, which is out in the UK, but not out in the States, so you'd have to go to the import racks for that one. And it's the guy who's talking to you. Well, I'm not talking. Now, Timothy Mundy's out there in Atlanta again, and he says, wait, no computer, you actually record the old-fashioned way? Should I trash my Cubase Cakewalk and Acid?
Not if you can get a good result out of it. I just haven't... it's a bit of like the old dog, new tricks thing with me. I just couldn't be bothered to learn. So I have one of my keyboards has got a little sequencer on it. It's a Korg i3, and it's got a little sequencer on it. I've got a sequencer and a sampler and some bits and pieces. But no, I do it all the old-fashioned way. Everything goes on to tape. But it's the only way I know how to sort of get a good result. You know, I think with a lot of computer stuff, everything is to hand very, very quickly, and I think that would make me quite lazy. I wouldn't work as hard. I wouldn't be as inspired as if I made it harder for myself. I think that's the only place you need to place some limitations on yourself, because in a way they set you free when you're writing. If you limit yourself to something, you can be more imaginative. Whereas for me, if I had a computer in front of me where everything's there, and you can get whatever you want at any time, I think that it opens up too many avenues, and I wouldn't concentrate on one particular thing. You need to be single-minded. So that's my. That's my excuse anyway. I'm sticking to it.
Right. Now I'm going to play You Make Me Wanna from the album. Did I hear you right earlier when you were saying it might be a single?
I would like it to be a single. Whether we can persuade the record company to agree to that or not is another matter. We'll have to see. This is co-written with a guy who plays guitar with me. A guy called Howie Gondway, who used to play guitar with Roachford when he first came out. So we wrote this one together.
That's You Make Me Wanna from Lewis Taylor from the second album, Lewis 2. Now, Lewis, we've had quite a few more questions coming in. What contemporary music do you listen to, and do you go CD shopping obsessively?
I have periods where I do, and I have periods where I don't, because it is expensive. But I tend to buy. I've recently been buying a lot of 60s American psychedelic and garage stuff. I've been checking out a band called The Music Machine, who were around at the same time as Love and The Doors, but got absolutely nowhere. They're from San Jose, and they're just incredible stuff. Been checking a lot of that out. Excuse me. And I went through a period recently of checking out some of the harder French dance stuff that's been going down. There's a guy called Pepe Braddock, and some of the stuff that's been coming out on Source Records, which I think is quite good, quite funny. Right. And but recently I've developed a rather sort of nasty appetite for 21st century British pop, and
such as
I really, really, really like the Sugar Baby single.
All right.
I think it's great. It just makes me laugh, and I like Mel C's single. Mel B's single, a new Spice Girls single. I really, really like. I'm really into that kind of stuff at the moment.
These are big admissions. You realise that?
Is it?
Yeah, oh yes.
I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think that, and I love the way that the production values are these days. Where what they do is they feed the voice into. I'm giving away trade secrets here. They feed the voice into what is known as Pro Tools, which you're aware of, which is a way of recording straight into a computer rather than onto tape. And then what they do is they auto-tune it. It's like an auto-tune. What it does is it takes the vocal and it puts it in tune with everything else, totally. So not only, like, when you sing a note, when a human being sings a note, it's always, what makes it sound more emotional than a normal instrument is the fact that there's a sharpness to it, there's a flatness to it. It's never fully in. That's what gives it that human element. But here they tune it so it's perfectly in tune, so it sounds really plastic and Like nobody sings that in tune, you know.
Yeah.
And when you hear it, I think it's a really great sound. I really, really like it. So I've been listening to a lot of like really, really, you know, the worse it is, the more I enjoy it.
Right.
So I've been listening to a lot of that stuff. I just think it's fun. So that might shock a few people.
Well, it certainly took me by surprise, that's for sure. Another question.
The Black Legend single. I thought that was
yeah?
fantastic. The Barry White remix,
Yeah,
Trouble
yeah.
With Me. I thought that was a great record. Just brilliant record. Really, really like that. That's really good. Don't believe me, do you?
Well,
It's true. I have been listening to that.
well, what's it there? Yes, yes. Other record companies. Do you have an extended deal with Island, or are you being courted by other record companies? Asks somebody in the United States innocently.
I don't know. I mean, I tend to. My manager tends to keep me away from all that. You know, she deals with all that kind of stuff. You know, so I don't really. I try not to get into that side of things. Really, I just try and keep myself involved with the music. Keep out of anything political, because it's too distracting. You know, you find yourself getting into things like that, and you know,
Right.
I tend not to get too interested in it. I try not to read too many reviews as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, there's the old saying, isn't it? If you'll take a good review seriously, you'll take a bad one seriously as well. You know, so I try to sort of like not read too much of it. You know, because if I've made a record and I like it, then that's and I'm finding that, you know, people are coming up to shows and they're liking it. That's fine. I don't need to read whether someone else does or not. You know? That's my take on it.
Yeah. Doesn't the seeing how they react though in print or maybe on the radio tell you something about the way your music's being perceived as opposed to the way you thought it was when you
Yes,
put
it does. Yeah. That's another reason why I don't do it.
Oh, right.
Because you can get too caught up in that as well. You really can. You can get caught up in how you're being perceived, and how people perceive you is entirely up to them. You can't tell them how to perceive you. You can't tell them, no, you're supposed to file my album there. You're supposed to put it next to the Chris Jagger solo album. You know, you don't put it next to there. It's up to them how they perceive you. You know, you can't control that. So, do you know what I mean? There's no point in concerning yourself with it.
You just do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Blue Eyes, which is track 10 on your album. Is there anything you remember specifically about that? Because that's kind of different to a lot of the other stuff on the album, I think.
I'll make a very, very grand admission. All that's down to is the fact that I just heard Vulnerable, you know, the Marvin Gaye album.
Right.
And at the time that I heard it, I thought it was actually the best Marvin Gaye album that I ever heard.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
And it's only half an hour long. It's a real... You know, there's nothing on there at all, but it's a really, really great album. And I really wanted to do something with it, but just give it that sort of twist that I've got. You know, give it the sort of the Taylor twist as well. So, and that's what it was born out of, coming up with that tune.
Right, let's hear it. That's Lewis Taylor singing Blue Eyes, inspired by Marvin Gaye.
And I think even listening to that now, I would. There's ways in which I would change that.
Yeah,
I would sing it even straighter than I did on the record. You know, the straighter. Sometimes I think the straighter you sing things, the more soulful it becomes. You know, and you just leave out all the fancy sort of melismatic stuff. You know, that's what I'm always working towards. You know, and I think I'm getting closer to it with each record that I do. In the end, I just want it to be so dead straight, without anything flash going on at all. You know, but all the soul is just in the interpretation and how you're doing it. You know, so yes.
Well, you said when you first came in off air that you quite liked your first album still, but about 60% of it. What's wrong with the other 40%?
There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I like those little tunes, but I think that the 60% of it is has got this magic to it. I think, and I think that the other 40% are just like nice tunes that don't really have the same amount of magic. And I would say, for me, the ones that don't, even though I really, really like the tune, one of them is Whoever. I think Whoever's a great tune, but it doesn't have that same sort of intensity to it. Right doesn't, How doesn't, and Better Love don't. Those four, I haven't got the same sort of like intensity to them as the other six have. But I think it's all good. You know.
It stood the test of time.
Yeah, I think it has.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. Now I'm going to play another great old soul vocalist for you, and we'll discuss him afterwards. And I won't bother introducing him because most people out there will know who he is. That's Donnie Hathaway from, well, it's kind of from the Extension of a Man album in the sense that Warners have just re-released it and they've stuck a bonus track on the end, and that is it. Lord help me. Nice gospel tune there, which most of you probably won't have heard. Now, Lewis, your plans for the future include some live dates in the UK, don't they?
Yeah, 2. That's all there is at the moment.
On
That's all
Monday
we
and
can
Tuesday.
screw out the record company the money for at the moment. So we've got one on Monday. Yeah, that's at the Hanover Grand.
Right in the centre of town.
Yep. And there's a guy called Ola supporting
Oh yes, he's
as well.
been down here as a guest of mine too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good.
So he's playing as well. And the day after that, on the 3rd, or is it the 4th?
One of them.
On the Tuesday. On the Tuesday is the Shepherd's Bush. No, it's not. It's the Hammersmith Apollo, and that's supporting Angie Stone. So, and that's it for the time being.
Supporting Angie Stone.
Yeah.
You know Angie stuff?
No.
You don't?
No. I know that. I heard the single that came out. I haven't checked out the album at all.
I guess.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah. Well, I think so. But then I like Sade, so what do I know?
Where is this leading to?
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Lewis. It's been
thank you.
great fun having you down, and you've you inspired tons of emails this evening, which is good fun too.
Excellent.
And I'll be there on Monday night. Sorry about all the Americans who can't see you, that would be dying to be there by the look of this screen. You're going to have to go to them.
We'll get out. We'll get out there at some point. It didn't happen last time. We'll try and get it together this time.
All right, well, thanks once again, and we're going to leave you, or well, you're going to leave us, with Lewis 2 from the album of the same name.
Cheers.